As we unpack it, we open up the flaps fully on all sides because we're going to flip the Durastill over on its side. It's a lot easier to unpack that way. Sometimes it's a little tricky, but it's generally a lot easier. Now we flip it back over on its side and open up, as it says, this side up. And we're going to open it on up. The distiller will be sitting inside, and we just we'll take out the stuffing and other items within the distiller and set them aside. This is what you'll see within the distiller. Set that aside and pull it out. You then set the distiller right side up again, and you can see it is braced and well packed, and you simply cut the straps. And we'll take the lid off. Make sure you set everything aside here in one area. The cap is put in there, it's upside down. And then take the wrapping off the top. There's cardboard within your boiling chamber, and that's in there because there's a float ball and stem. And they don't want that they don't want rattling around, and it protects the float ball. So you make sure that you take that on off, and you remove an additional piece of cardboard. So you're taking these two parts out of the boiling chamber. Set those aside. These can be discarded. You have your directions, as you see here on the very top of the distiller. You just set that aside for future use. So at this point, we let the distiller off the cardboard, and we have our distiller as such. Now we're going to set it aside like this, turning it over one more time on its top. We also have a post filter to take a look at. And we again want to simply just open up the package. We have a hose, which we will place at this point, at this particular spot. Now the hose may be a little tricky to come on because it is tight and it's to fit securely on that particular position. And if it does give you a little bit of a resistance such as this, then you probably need to put it in some warm water because it is made to be secure on the stem. Once it's totally secured and you put it on top of the stem or over the stem, then you tighten it with this particular O-ring which is brought on, which you simply place on it and tighten up. This is what you'll have. Now what we want to do next is turn the distiller on over onto its legs. And we're still using this as a shield to protect whatever you're putting it on. And we flip it back over. At this point in time is when you'd want to put your cap, which was set up here before. We've taken it off, and we're going to add the knob to it as well, and the crossbar. The crossbar should go on first. So we'll place the crossbar on top of the lid, and then we'll put the knob on top of that. We simply get the lid There's a couple of stems that are sticking up with threads that you'll see. You just set it on that particular area. You make sure at the same time that your lid is squared. So you take a look at your lid cap, it is squared. Now I can move the top brace bar on top of that. Start tightening up the wing nuts. We're tightening down the knob as well, bringing that down to not quite to tighten it all the way down. You may take a look at it and think you may have to secure this to the crossbar or bring it down to that level, and you don't need to do that. You just tighten it up as far as you can, and you secure the lid with the 2 wing nuts. Just simply tighten them down. Once again, making sure that the lid cap is squared away and secure. I want to tip it over slightly so that you can see something that's engineered to be this way, and it's called a gas escape portal. So at the top of the serpentine coil, and I'll tip this over just slightly, you'll see a very small hole here at the very top. That's engineered that way to allow the volatile gases to escape. So there's no worry about that. It's the way it's designed. Okay, and at this point we're going to open up the 10-gallon tank, or the 40L. And once again, we have it on its side, this side up. We open that side up. Inside, we're going to move it over to its side a little bit. Put it back up here where it shows this side up. I'm going to tilt it now. I've got the flaps that I just opened up. Open them on up. We're going to open the flaps so the wings are on out. I'm going to lift this up a little bit to bring the bottom wing underneath it. I'm just going to pick it up on its side. Here we have this side up again. We're going to open up the sides as it shows here. Same way. With this side up, and this is what you'll be seeing. These are the legs that we're going to set aside for the distiller. Along with the legs is your sight gauge, which will be right along with it, or your faucet gauge. On the side of the same tank each side, you're going to find these components again. These are your legs. Same with the opposite side. Now we're going to turn this over on its side. And we're going to pull it back out. And we'll pull it on out. And as we open it up and put it on its side, you'll see that we have some nuts here, and what we want to use is a 7/16 wrench. And there's 4 on this side and 4 on the other. And we'll just simply take one off. And you want to set these off to the side because you'll be needing them again. So it'll be a total of 8 of these sets. So we'll put it on over here, and we'll just take the rest off here in a second. I used some of my packaging from before to set this up and turn it on its side, as you can see. Also, I'm referencing back to the 4 nuts that we've taken off on each side. So we have 8 sets here aside, so let's not forget about those. Okay, so the next step we're going to do after we've placed our distiller, over here, as you can see, we've used some of our packaging before to set that on and secure it. It's up over the side of the edge here. You may not be able to see that, but it's right there. And now we're going to start unpacking this particular portion of the shipment. Now, as we started unpacking things, you're going to see these are the items that we have, and you'll see. I just want you to take a look at them right now, and as we go through this, you'll see exactly where they belong. But please note these components. Okay, when you take a look at the items, you're going to see there's 4 components that kind of look like this. Okay, we're going to get these. We're going to set up this one side for you with the understanding that the other side is going to be set up just like it. The tank is upside down. You're going to pull this component, and there's 4 of them. And you'll know if it's the right component if you get right up here and they fit just like this. There's 4 of them because we're doing 1/2 of it, and we're setting this right here as well. Okay, then we have these 4 legs such as this. We're going to just pick them on up, take a look at them, remembering that this is upside down, with the larger hole being put at the bottom at this point in time. Let's just do this to hold it together at this point. And we're going to get the other side of it. So you'll see that you'll know right away if they fit or not by seeing if the holes line up. We're going to set this on here like this. We're going to secure it so it doesn't move around with these end caps. And we're going to do the same for the bottom 2. And all we need to do is then just tighten these sides, and we're done with this side, and we're just going to reciprocate the same thing on the other side. Now remember, we put the other side on and we're ready to go past that. Take a quick look to see the items that we have left here. So we have the legs with casters, the arms with casters, and we have these 2. We're going to pick these 2 on up, and we're going to set these up so that the holes are up here in this direction. Here's the other one. The hole is set up like this. We can be careful with that. We're going to do one side as we did the other. We're going to get the set of casters here, and we're going to set them across in this formation. When you take a look at them, always make sure everything is lined up. It makes things a lot easier for you when you put them on in. So we'll line this up here. We'll get a second one of these. This is what we have at this point. Now, if you can remember at the start, we had 8 bolts and washers that we had set aside over here to this side. We're going to get 2 of them now. We're going to set these up here like this. We're going to get the bolts and washers that we put aside initially. Now this is where we're going to use them. We're going to set it up like this. And I found the easiest way to do it is to kind of mate them up like this. Push them on up. Hold them together. Just turn it in that fashion, and of course tighten it up. You're going to get the other one. Do the same thing. You're going to set it up like this. You're going to hold this. You're going to tighten the top. You're going to line it up. And do the same here and tighten it on up. And again, you can tighten this up again with a little tool as such. We're set up with this side, and then you do the same thing with this leg on the other side, and you'll have your legs set up. It's just that easy. Now, as you can see, We've got all the 4 legs in. Pretty easy, wasn't it? Now take a look at this. This is what you'll be later on if you want a demand pump to deliver to a remote location. This is where it'll be connected to, and it'll be delivered to a remote location. So now let's set it up and put the tank on top. Okay, now that we've got this turned right side up, this is the cover to your reserve tank. So there's a little nut and bolt here, which you unscrew it, may be tighter. You might need a little bit of a tool to do that. There's some instructions here with that as well. We're going to set that aside. As you can see, in order to get this off, you have to slip it back and forth. You just can't pull up on it. We're just going to take it off and set it right there at this point. Or we can get it totally out of our way and set it up here. Also, as you're looking at this, you're going to see that this is your micro switch in this particular component, which helps determine how high the water level is or how low it might be. And basically, in shipment, it's really tied down so it doesn't bounce around or rattle. So you have to make absolutely sure that anything that's tying this up is taken off so that this can now move freely, because before this point, you really didn't want it to move freely. Now we just take that off and we can throw that away. And this is what you see here. In here, there's a float ball. As the water goes on up in this direction and reaches a certain point, it actually triggers your upper boiling chamber and does not allow water to come in. As it goes down, it's demonstrating that it has a capacity to hold water, and it'll demand water, and your distiller will go in production. So you have to make sure that this is going up and down. We're not going to put that cap back on because now we're going to put on the float gauge and faucet. We're going to get the washer and we're going to screw that on nice and tight all the way back. This component again will end up being on the outside of your distiller. This particular component will end up being on the inside, and I said distiller, I should have more accurately said reserve tank. This will be in your reserve tank. We're going to do the same thing as we did before and kind of loosen it up to make sure that it's nice and smooth and it goes on nice and tightly. This component right now, we don't need to pay too much attention to at this point in time, but you can see that that moves up and down. Okay, so I'm going to unscrew this. So we'll start here and we'll tighten it as much as we possibly can with my left hand, which you can't see. And I'm turning that. This is at about 9 o'clock. And I'm clamping down with my left hand and I'm using the faucet as leverage, holding on to the faucet and not putting any stress on the side gauge. If I put stress here, I'm going to break it. And I always tell people, put a little water in there if you want to test it, and just back it up a little bit and tighten it one more time. I think that'll be just perfect on a test. But always test it with a little bit of water to make sure you're just fine. You have this component now. You're going to lift this up. As you can see, there's a little donut hole up here. You're going to pull it back and you're going to set it right in there. Now that we've completed that, there's a nut on the reserve tank lid. We're going to take that off, set it aside. There's a black knob here, which we're going to place on it. That black knob controls the swing lever. Remember, it has to be a little bit loose. You're going to slide it in. You can't just put it in. You've got to slide it in, slide it back, making sure it's secure and squared away. When you tighten this up, you actually pull up as you tighten it down So you're actually pulling up on this. The wing that's on the bottom, which you can't see, is being drawn up. You're getting pressure on it. It now closes, and it's a nice secure cap. Okay, now this is going to go. You can see there's a end that's a little more open than the other. So we're going to put the narrow end right here into the hole at the back. And this is really the sterilization tube, the tube that you use when you sterilize your distiller. Then we're going to be putting the head on. And we got the head on it. As you can see, this may be a little lower than this side, or it could be even. Now let's turn this around. And we're going to plug the head to the reserve tank so that there can be communication between the two. This particular cord, which you see we have not cut at this point in time, will be connected to your wall.